So, 22 minutes past 6, morning, you're watching Breakfast, lovely to see you. Domestic abuse affects millions of people in the UK and it takes many forms, from the physical attacks to psychological bullying.
Today, campaigners are calling for financial abuse when one person controls another's access to money to be recognised as a crime in its own right. Vishala Sri-Pathma, has this report.
Rachel, not her real name, was abused by her partner for nearly a decade. But it was a form of abuse that often goes under the radar. Financial abuse is where one partner has control over another's access to money.
I was totally invisible in terms of a credit status. I didn't have a tenancy agreement in my name, I had no bank accounts in my name, I had no access to cash, stocks, shares, nothing. I just hadn't realised at the time I'd given up everything.
Rachel's partner gradually took control of all her money. He made her leave her job to work with him, stopping her having access to wages or bank accounts. Instead, he gave her a weekly allowance. The financial abuse Rachel experienced led to physical violence, and eventually she found the courage to leave. Despite going to the police and taking her case to the Crown Prosecution Services on several occasions, Rachel's partner was never prosecuted.
My experience has gone 3 times to the Crown Prosecution Service and bounced back, and no further action's been taken. And that's just so disappointing. When I kept the diaries, I kept all the emails and text messages, the bank statements, the court orders, and it failed. And that's extremely frustrating.
In 2015, a new law against controlling and coercive behaviour was introduced. It meant people could be prosecuted for emotional and psychological abuse, not just physical violence. Financial abuse can be a type of coercive control, but this behaviour alone may not constitute a criminal offence. The government is currently consulting on a proposed Domestic Abuse and Violence Act. One campaign group is today calling for the bill to include financial abuse as a criminal offence in its own right.
There is a bill that is being consulted on that is looking to put a definition of domestic violence into legislation, and that would be incredibly helpful if we could have economic abuse within a statutory definition of domestic violence, so that we can say this is what it is and these are the things that we need to be able to do in order to tackle it.
The government says the Domestic Violence and Abuse Bill will enshrine a definition of domestic abuse in law to make sure it's properly understood in all its forms. Critics insist that those carrying out law enforcement need to be trained and aware of the signs of financial control for them to be able to spot it, while cases like Rachel's will continue to go unpunished. Vishala Sri-Pathma, BBC News.
And do feel free if you want to get in contact if you're affected by issues to do with that report.